From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
My friend, you don't plan to get it? Oh, Barbados. Hey, I'm KB Clean. Join me 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here at 94.7, the best and ultimate Bajan experience. My show is called Bajan to the Bone. Don't miss it, Bajan to the Bone. Weekdays right here and only here on 94.7.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
Welcome to the Cropover Sweet Spot, your go-to show for all things Cropover 2024. We'll dive into the big issues of the day with exclusive interviews with the entertainers, the experts, the movers and shakers of the festival, plus you, the audience. Get to join the conversation and share your views. Tune in to CBC TV 8 every Friday night for the ultimate Cropover experience with yours truly, the Admiral. We're big on everything Cropover 2024. The Cropover Sweet Spot, brought to you with the kind compliments of Axel Finance.
Tune in every Friday at 6 p.m. to see me, Chrissy D, on Fashion Flair on CBC TV 8. I'll be bringing you the latest fashion trends, fashion ends, and everything in between. Get ready to transform your style, get inspired, and elevate your fashion game with the ultimate guide to looking fabulous. Join me, Chrissy D, this Friday on CBC TV 8 at 6 p.m. for an exciting episode of Fashion Flair.
The ultimate cricket showdown is coming to ESPN, and MCTV has got you covered. The ICC Cricket World Cup 2024 is here on ESPN and MCTV. Tune into MCTV channels 302 and 308, and don't miss a single six, wicket, or heart-pounding moment as top teams vie for the 2024 T20 World Cup. From June 1st to 29th, it's cricket you can't afford to miss. Tune into ESPN on MCTV, and for live radio coverage, tune into 94.7. Catch every moment of the ICC Cricket World Cup T20 action.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
I never feel so good in a party yet.
Follow me to Q in the Community this Thursday.
So good in a party yet.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up.
Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning.
Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Morning to you.
Good morning to you on this July 9th. So good to have you in company with us. It's Tuesday already. Certainly hope you had a great day yesterday, a good start to your week, and you're looking forward to a wonderful rest of the week. I'm Tisha Hines. I'll be here with you until 8 o'clock this morning. A very special good morning to a couple of people I met up with while out shopping yesterday. So a big hi, Angela. Thanks for watching every single day. And she says that if she's up first, she wakes up the husband. If he's up first, he says, hey, it's time to tune in. So that's absolutely awesome. Thank you for staying with us. So today we're going to get to know a few other young people who are part of the Barbados Tourism Youth Congress 2024. Of course, an initiative of the Ministry of Tourism and developed in secondary schools. It's a speak-off competition to be able to name a junior minister of tourism for 1 year. And the initiative is going already. We're into phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 just completed. We're heading to phase 2 and 3. And they're going to face off for the winner to be announced, who will represent for that title for the next year. So we look forward to meeting Michaela Lowe of the Ellerslie School and Mikhail Robertson of Alexandra School. You recall that we had students from Lester Vaughan and the Princess Margaret School yesterday. So I look forward to having them today and hearing a little bit more about them. Plus, Melina Simmons of the Caribbean Institute for Social and Emotional Learning and Rachel Cheeseman are going to be in to talk to us a little bit more about enabling a better Caribbean tomorrow, today. And it's an initiative that's coming up, so I look forward to that. Of course, while I was going about my early business here in the studio, I heard a voice testing in the background. I said, that sounds like Melina. So, I picked up that voice very quickly. I used to be an employee here at CBC, so I look forward to catching up with her. Also, Senator John King is going to be in as we take a look at the windmills. How about that? He also has Rihanna Smith, who is Assistant Coordinator and Researcher for the Barbados National Register of Historic Places. It's always an exciting time when they come around to find out all that wonderful history about our country. So I look forward to that. But we're going to get today started, as we often do on Tuesdays, by speaking with Ambassador David Comissiong. Now, he hasn't been on island, but there's so much going on across our region that we want to catch up. So good morning. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good morning, Tisha. Pleasure to be here.
I hope you're having a good week already.
Well, yeah, it's been a pretty good week. It's a good week for me if it's a productive week. And it's been a productive week.
Yeah, I won't get into that because productive.
And there was the official launch of Crop Over.
That's right, over the weekend.
Yeah.
Did you get an opportunity to check that out?
I was there from beginning to end. From the beginning of the ceremonial delivery of the last skeins to almost the very end of the Calypso tent in Independence.
Yeah, that was quite a to-do. Yeah, from the parade all the way up, and then the officialities.
Yeah. My only regret is that quite a few people told me that they didn't know about it. And that parade, every Barbadian child really should have been there to experience that parade. So I think we need to, events like that, we need to find a way to make sure that the whole population is informed.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It was meant to be at the Botanical Gardens. So the switch was really in short order. So the changes were major. I think the press conference to kind of announce everything was only on Thursday. So that literally gave like one full day and just a bit to be able to promote the change. Absolutely. But it was a great event. And CBC TVA will be showing it again soon, so everybody will get a chance to see it, of course. Before we get into talking about what you've been up to as you were in St. Martin, I'd like to touch on what's been going on in the Caribbean a little bit, if you don't mind, after the passage of
this
Hurricane Beryl.
This snippet from the speech in St. Martin is very much connected to Beryl. Because I was invited to the Governor's Symposium in St. Martin, and I basically was speaking about reparations and decolonization. But in explaining reparations, I was making the point that there is an aspect of reparations that has to deal with a reform and restructuring of the international economic order and the international institutions to be much more facilitatory of the development of countries like ours that went through centuries of enslavement and exploitation. And I zeroed in on the climate crisis and compensation for climate injustice. And what Beryl represents is an example of climate injustice. So this snippet from the speech really sets the background for a deeper understanding of Beryl and what should be our response to Beryl.
All right, well, with that said, let's take a listen to the clip and come on back. Of course, this is the address that the ambassador gave at the Governor's Symposium in St. Martin on Friday, the 28th of June. And he explained a bit about what it was all about.
So we have to look at restructuring that order. We in CARICOM, and especially in Barbados, we have captured a number of those demands under a rubric that we call the Bridgetown Initiative. So these are demands for a restructuring of the international institutions. These institutions are not doing enough to cater to the black and brown nations of the world, those nations whose people were subjected to centuries of looting and plundering of their resources. Our ancestors worked generation after generation and never got to appropriate or to keep or to enjoy any of the fruits of their labor. Fruits of their labor were siphoned off. European families, European companies, institutions, and ultimately to the capitals of Europe. The beginnings of Europe's industrial civilization is right here in the Caribbean. In the 1640s, there were no factories in Europe. If you wanted to find a factory in the 1640s, you had to go to places like Barbados. The fields of sugar cane to grow the cane, the windmill to grind the sugar cane to produce cane juice, then the sugar factory or boiling house to put that cane juice through various heating and chemical processes to produce sugar, molasses, rum. Who ran those? That was the beginning of Europe's industrial revolution. And who ran those proto-industrial enterprises in the Caribbean? They call them slaves, but when you look behind that general term slave, you saw carpenter, blacksmith, cooper, sugar factory boiler. It was our enslaved ancestors. And many of them brought the skills used to develop that proto-industrial economy from Africa. How do we know that? Well, the historical records show that, for example, if you look at carpenters on the sugar plantations, that a disproportionate number of those who were carpenters were actually Africa-born, as opposed to, Creoles born in the Caribbean, which tells you that they brought these skills with them from the continent of Africa. So, as Walter Rodney said, how Europe underdeveloped Africa, Europe's development was purchased at the price of the systematic looting and plundering of not only the continent of Africa, but of the sons and daughters of Africa in the Caribbean. And so, because of that history, we now, the black and brown nations of the world that went through that historical experience, we now have a fundamental right to development. And the nations and institutions that benefited from our systematic underdevelopment are now under a corresponding fundamental duty to facilitate our development. And so, whether you're talking World Bank, IMF, Inter-American Development Bank, they all need to be restructured to be much, much more facilitatory of our development. We must restructure the terms of international trade. We must restructure the currently inequitable rules of international finance and international economic governance. We must be paid compensation for climate injustice because our ancestors were enslaved to help Europe develop an industrial economy. That industrial economy went on to bring enormous wealth to Europe, but at the expense of creating all these greenhouse gases that have caused the global warming that manifests now in ferocious hurricanes, sargassum seaweed invasions, droughts that now affect our countries. And we are feeling those negative effects. So we have been disadvantaged twice. Our ancestors were exploited to build the industry that went on to create wealth for Europe, but to generate greenhouse gases. And now we are on the front line of the climate crisis. So the Bridgetown Initiative says, no, we must be compensated to be able to adapt and to mitigate the climate crisis.
Absolutely. That of course deals with exactly what we were talking about. A great segue into exactly what's happening in our region right now.
Yes, we were severely impacted by Hurricane Beryl. At least 9 of our CARICOM territories, you're talking Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Jamaica, Cayman, Haiti also experienced some damage, and then it petered off as it got towards Belize. So one hurricane that has impacted so many of our countries at the very beginning of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. We still have about 5 months to go. And the thing about Beryl is that Beryl is a history-making hurricane. Beryl is on record as the earliest hurricane to develop into a Category 5 hurricane. No other hurricane has become a Category 5 hurricane this early in the hurricane season. And that was caused by record sea level surface level temperatures. So this is a sign of things to come. You know, for decades, Barbados had not been hit by a hurricane. You know, we had to go back to 1955 with Jeanette. Then we had Elsa. Now we have Beryl. And so it is telling us that the climate crisis is here with us.
All right, so there are a few terms that, you know, that we've been hearing a lot of. 1.5 to stay alive, obviously speaking about the climate generally and the rise in temperatures and so on. But also we know that the Bridgetown Initiative has kind of been shared all across the globe in, you know, various places, particularly in Canada, you know, to a lot of major players and so on. Where are we with it? Because we heard a lot of people talking about how great it is, what a wonderful initiative it is, how good it would be for small island developing states. But where are we with things like the Bridgetown Initiative and other things that really tie into it when we talk about climate financing and being able to build up ourselves really so that we're resilient and not only reactive at times like this, so that we're able to really build on the infrastructure for our West Coast, for example, and South Coast, where we've been able to put the boardwalks in, which really are meant to kind of help to mitigate some of the damages that we saw and so on. Where are we with these things with the international community, who really are the people who need to sign on to these initiatives?
Well, I think that we have made the most success, I would say, with the climate-related parts of the Bridgetown Initiative. So, for example, the Bridgetown Initiatives call for debt pause clauses in our borrowing instruments, such that you put in a clause that says, if you're hit by a major natural disaster like a hurricane, and a certain level of damage is done, you are entitled to pause your debt payments for 2 years so that you can focus all of your resources on rebuilding. I think that has been a success. That has been pretty widely accepted by a large number of developing countries and a number of the international financial institutions. Secondly, the Bridgetown Initiative has zeroed in on the climate injustice and has been calling for that $100 billion that the developed industrialized countries that have caused the global warming have undertaken to pay into the UN's loss and damage fund, but have never done so. In fact, for the fund was not operationalized until last year. And some of the momentum to actually push these countries to operationalize the fund obviously came from, the energy behind the Bridgetown initiative. So the fund is now, quote unquote, operationalized. Barbados has put in a request to have the management of the fund located in Barbados. We'll see what happens with that. But the pledges into the fund at last year's COP didn't even come to $1 billion, and we are saying it's supposed to be $100 billion. So we obviously still have a lot of work to do, Tisha, a lot of activism, a lot of agitation to get justice, because that fund should be available for a situation like Beryl, where St. Vincent, the countries hardest hit, St. Vincent and Grenada, should not now be having to go and borrow money on the international market to rebuild. There should be that loss and damage fund with resources that they could get grants out of that fund to rebuild. Barbados should be able to get grants out of that fund to reestablish our fishing fleet, for example. And so that is the climate justice that we're calling for. And you see, we have come to understand, they say the Caribbean is the most heavily indebted region in the world. Our countries have the highest national debt. Well, why is that? A big part of that is because year after year, our countries have to be responding to climate disasters and having to be borrowing money to be constantly rebuilding and repairing because of some climate-related event, whether it's a catastrophic one like a hurricane, or it is sargassum seaweed, it is rising sea waters, having to do the coastal protection, having to do desalination plants. All of this adds up. And
it's all related.
Yeah, it's
all right,
related.
We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we continue the conversation. And remember, this conversation on what's happening continues. Our Crystal Hoyt is outside of Barbados and doing stellar work all the way down the region. We're not even sure exactly where she is this morning. She's traveling along with the teams working toward recovery and rebuilding. And we're going to be checking in with her a little bit later about how things are going and sharing some of the images that have been coming in to the corporation of how Beryl has really torn up the region. So stay with us. More discussion after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Welcome to the Crop Over Sweet Spot, your go-to show for all things Crop Over 2024. We'll dive into the big issues of the day with exclusive interviews with the entertainers, the experts, the movers and shakers of the festival, plus you, the audience. Get to join the conversation and share your views. Tune in to CBC TV 8 every Friday night for the ultimate crop over experience with yours truly, the Admiral. We're big on everything crop over 2024. The Crop Over Sweet Spot, brought to you with the kind compliments of Axel Finance.
Tune in every Friday at 6 p.m. to see me, Chrissy D, on Fashion Flair on CBC TV 8. I'll be bringing you the latest fashion trends, fashion ends, and everything in between. Get ready to transform your style, get inspired, and elevate your fashion game with the ultimate guide to looking fabulous. Join me, Chrissy D, this Friday on CBC TV 8 at 6 p.m. for an exciting episode of Fashion Flair.
The ultimate cricket showdown is coming to ESPN, and MCTV has got you covered. The ICC Cricket World Cup 2024 is here on ESPN and MCTV. Tune into MCTV channels 302 and 308, and don't miss a single six, wicket, or heart-pounding moment as top teams vie for the 2024 T20 World Cup. From June 1st to 29th, it's cricket you can't afford to miss. Tune into ESPN on MCTV, and for live radio coverage, tune into 94.7. Catch every moment of the ICC Cricket World Cup T20 action.
enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love cruise.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
I never feel so good in a party yet.
Follow me to Q in the Community this Thursday.
So good in a party yet. You know why?
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Welcome back to Morning Barbados. Time is quickly going by. It's just about 6:27. Ambassador Comissiong is still here. And we're talking generally about Hurricane Beryl, but specifically about how that can be used at this time, so to speak, to be able to advance what we need to do in the Caribbean region so that we can mitigate some of the damage that we're seeing to our properties. There's so much that we can talk about, from building, the way we build in this part of the region, to what we do. But there are certain things that are kind of beyond our control, kind of like the notices that CBC used to put out, I heard about years ago, the film has slipped the sprocket. This is beyond our control.
It doesn't happen now.
No, it doesn't. But we're there because of who we are as small island developing states.
Yeah, we in the Caribbean, we are really on the front line. We are the most exposed, we are right in the line of those hurricanes that every year form off the West African coast and come straight across at us. And because of the global warming, they are becoming increasingly violent and increasingly frequent. So we have to be very, very serious about demanding climate justice. I would advocate that as CDEMA goes through its normal process of assessing the damage done to the Caribbean territories by Beryl, that we should make sure we do this in a very rigorous and scientific way, as CDEMA always does. Tally up that bill and present that bill to the relevant, wealthy, industrialized countries, the so-called Annex 1 countries of the Kyoto Protocol, the countries that have been identified as the ones that are really responsible for the global warming, and say to them, here is the evidence of what we have been saying all along. We must receive climate justice. We must receive compensation from you. We cannot be expected to be expensing our people for something that we are not responsible for. So Barbados now, the government has to help reestablish that fishing fleet. It means that money that perhaps could have gone into the education reform program, or that could have gone to Minister Corey Lane for his peace initiative, has to be diverted to repairing damage that ultimately we really are not responsible for. So I see that Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell has issued a public statement making this point very strongly, that this is a serious injustice to Grenada, for Grenada to have to now go and look for resources to rebuild those islands. That is just not fair. So I'm hoping that the leadership of CARICOM will make this make Beryl, the response to Beryl, a special campaign that really helps to make the case for us to receive, for that loss and damage fund to be treated much more seriously, and for us to be put in a position to receive reconstruction grants.
Well, ironically, he's just stepped into his role as head of CARICOM as well for his cycle. So the interesting thing is something that you touched on before, the fact that we're so early in the season. So it's a very real possibility. And I know there's a few people out there saying, don't say it, Tisha, because, you know, we believe in, in positivity. And, you know, but the reality is we're very early in the season, as you mentioned. So, you know, several other recovery and repair bills could potentially be down the line for 2024. So what's the next move in terms of speaking with one clear and loud voice as a region to let the international community know that it's just not enough to say, okay, this has now been put in place, but to make it truly operational for us to be able to draw on the funds needed to reinforce, really, our shorelines.
Yeah. Well, you know, we can only do what we can do, which is, you know, we can't give them an instruction and order. We have to do the activism, the advocacy, and so we have been doing that in a very admirable way. I think the CARICOM countries have always turned up at the COP conferences and have made an impact on COP. So we have driven a lot of the agenda, even the concept of 1.5 to stay alive, to set that target. You have to give a lot of credit to the CARICOM countries, both as CARICOM, but also within AOSIS, you know, the Alliance of Small Island States, for insisting that that goal of keeping the global temperature rise to no more than 1.5 by the end of this century. You have to give us a lot of credit for establishing that as a target. So we can only continue with the advocacy, but I am thinking that Beryl, because Beryl has really caught the imagination of the world. I mean, it's been on all the major newscasts and so forth, and it's not just one country, you see. But when we set up SEDIMA, the idea was that if one country is impacted, that all the rest, the resources of all the rest, will be brought to bear on helping that one country. But as things have turned out, hurricanes are not impacting just one country now. Yeah. It's multiple. So our resources are really stretched. SEDIMA's resources will be stretched. So yes, we can only do what we can do, but I think we need to make wise use of this current disaster and really get all of our diplomats, you know, mobilized around using this to make the case in a very, very graphic way, and to do it now at the very beginning of the hurricane season, because who knows what else is coming our way.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding insensitive, but you know, I'm hoping that people will see my point. The mere fact that we kind of have to reach out to average people and say donate, which is not a bad thing, but we're to the place now where people used to say, you know, bring what you have, where we're hearing we need cash. So it's a very different appeal from what we've heard in the past, and we understand why there's a need to have money to be able to do what's needed, instead of having a bunch of things donated that you might not be able to distribute as readily as you would if you had the money to be able to do it. But I think there will be some level of fatigue on the backs of the people who are kind of called upon all of the time to contribute. And that in and of itself is a challenge, because we're looking at a situation where, you know, there might be a level of indifference when it comes to working together as a region.
Yeah, you can only go to the well so often. But, you know, we are Caribbean people. We are accustomed to showing solidarity. They say Barbados is a Kudir society, you know, very sympathetic and empathetic people.
We indeed are.
And you know, so we do our best. Yes, you know, when the hurricane first hits, there's that immediate need for material supplies. But after you get past that initial donation of material supplies, the governments tend to prefer, give us cash so that we could kind of more calibrate the needs better. And you're right, sometimes if they have a deluge of material supplies, the distribution, the logistics for distribution can become problematical. So yes, I know St. Vincent has said, please put the emphasis on cash right now.
As did Grenada.
Rather than the material supplies. I came here armed with the bank account details.
Yeah, we do have the information for Grenada, I believe.
Yes, we have St. Vincent and Grenada. I think when I was here last week, we featured the St. Vincent details, but Grenada also has a natural disaster relief fund. The Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, SWIFT code GROAGDGD, and account number, it's a lot to take in, 121004900. But I guess that information is probably available.
Yeah.
On
we put a link for people to be able to navigate to the site. Once you get online, it's very easy to navigate to the site.
But to get back to your point,
ordinary
citizens can only do so much, really and truly, if we are going to be responding to damage caused by Category 4 and 5 hurricanes. We must have that loss and damage resource in place that we can draw upon. So, unfortunately, Tisha, this is a world of injustice. It has been for a long time, and we know only too well in light of our own history. But I guess the good thing is that the genie is out of the bottle. People's eyes have opened up. In the past, they used to tell you, oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Oh, you fix that damage yourself. And a lot of us then recognize that, we were in a situation of injustice, where some countries had really benefited at our people's expense for centuries, had developed their own strength at the expense of our weakness, and then had the arrogance to tell us, just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. So I think our eyes have opened up. We are now much more aware to the systemic injustices, the systemic inequalities, and I think the demand that has gone out from us. And I go back to that reparations claim that we launched in 2013. I think the reparations idea has caused us to look a lot more closely and critically at the whole world within which we live, and the structural inequalities and injustices built into that world order, and we are questioning it. And I think that questioning is only going to get louder and more piercing as we go forward. And we have to demand justice for ourselves, and a level playing field. We have to demand that this international order be much more facilitatory of us, much more protective of our interests, because it is what we are entitled to. It's not some charity we are asking for. We are looking at the whole history of how this world order emerged, and the injustice that is built into that history, and we are saying enough is enough. We want a proper deal, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And what comes to mind, to be honest, is a speech Rihanna gave. It wasn't in reference to anything to do with this, but she said, if there are people who truly support you, tell them to pull up. And I think in order to be heard, which we know in the international spaces, when many of these countries need numbers to be made up, they go about lobbying to be able to get the support that they need from this part of the world. I think it's time to call in some favors and tell some people to pull up.
Yes, you say that you're our friend, you're our development partner, and all the rest of it. Well, prove it. Here's the time to prove it, because there can be no doubt, that this is not something that we have fabricated. I mean, the evidence is so clear that we are on the front line of this climate crisis. We cannot be expected to be every year finding resources to rebuild and to repair for something that we were not responsible for. In fact, we were the victims of it. You benefited from this process. You have all this accumulation of resources and wealth, and we assume simple justice.
Absolutely.
Give us the resources to be able to repair.
And the truth is, and again, conversations like these are so delicate when you think about it, because there's so much we need to do here for our people to kind of safeguard themselves as much as they can, especially so early in the season, and looking on and seeing all that has happened. There have been incentives throughout the years for people to use more hurricane straps and build differently. There are changes to our building codes and things of that nature. But there's so many homes as we move around Barbados. There's so many homes here that need to get in a place where we feel like if we have a real, I can't even say a direct hit, because look at what happened with Beryl, but that these homes, these households will be able to survive, at any eventuality like that. So we really should be concentrating on reinforcing infrastructure and things like that at this point in time.
That's actually part of the thinking of the Bridgetown Initiative as well, because in addition to just focusing on the climate issues specifically, the Bridgetown Initiative also focuses on the fact that the multilateral development institutions need to have much more resources available to developing countries to address issues pertaining to poverty, better infrastructure, better housing, and so forth. And there's a link between the two. That if there's a link between anti-poverty measures and climate adaptation and mitigation measures, because if a country is struggling with issues pertaining to poverty, how then do you ask that country to deal with the climate crisis, to deal with climate mitigation and adaptation? So the two go together, and the Bridgetown Initiative is calling for much more resources to be made available, so that developing countries can do things like what you are talking about, where housing stock can be improved, for example. And but I guess we now need to be conscious that we are in a climate crisis. We are going to be more and more subject to these violent hurricanes. So we need to be more conscious to do what we can to improve our roofs, our hurricane shutters, etc., etc. So we need to do what we can on our own resources, but at the same time, we need to keep pressing. We need to keep pushing the Bridgetown Initiative and its call for much more resources to be made available, and to be made available on concessional terms. We are talking about, even if you have to take loans for development purposes, those should be loans repaid over 30 to 50-year periods. So the whole point is these institutions need to be much more facilitatory of our development, so that we can do the things we need to do to protect our people.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Ambassador Comissiong, for coming in and sharing with us. Always insightful, but I think our conversation this morning kind of leaves a lot to be said. We certainly have to continue the conversation in the coming weeks and months as we continue on the rebuild all across the Caribbean. I mean, for some islands, they're still in recovery phase. Coming up next, our Crystal Hoyt. We're going to attempt to link with her, and she'll share what's been happening, what she's been seeing, what's going on down the region. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affairs segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
All right, so just about 14 minutes now to go before 7 o'clock. And as I mentioned, we've been getting so much video from down the islands about what was happening, and we received this video just yesterday. And in instances like these, it's just raw emotion, and there's so much happening that we definitely have to tell you that viewer discretion is advised. However, I feel as though this is something that we really need to see to really understand what our Caribbean neighbors have been experiencing.
Let me call him. Call him, the roof going and the person stand up outside there. Jesus Christ. So far I count probably 3 house roof already. 1 over there. Now east one and them house roof lifting up. It's just truly scary. This is it. Change up. Phone line down, everything down. God is saving me right now. God was saving me right now. thought I would have. Can't run with nothing. With yourself. No matter how you prepare, you still can't prepare for this. Just run with your important documents, is it? How long we been inside here, Charlotte? Since morning? Yeah. Let's stay inside here. Yeah, let's stay inside whenever. Yeah, there's a good thing we have this place here because the whole house gone. Everything. If you're not doing anything there, come daddy. Hey, wash car. I never frightened so in my life. What is what car? You see when the house is going? Yes. Somebody trap down the corner. Oh, jeez. Oh,
At 6 p.m. to see me, Chrissy D, on Fashion Flair on CBC TV8. I'll be bringing you the latest fashion trends, fashion ends, and everything in between. Get ready to transform your style, get inspired, and elevate your fashion game with the ultimate guide to looking fabulous. Join me, Chrissy D, this Friday on CBC TV8 at 6 p.m. for an exciting episode of Fashion Flair.
Welcome to the Crop Over Sweet Spot, your go-to show for all things Crop Over 2024. We'll dive into the big issues of the day with exclusive interviews with the entertainers, the experts, the movers and shakers of the festival, plus you, the audience. Get to join the conversation and share your views. Tune in to CBC TV8 every Friday night for the ultimate Crop Over experience with yours truly, the Admiral. We're big on everything Crop Over 2024. The Crop Over Sweet Spot, brought to you with the kind compliments of Axel Finance.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
All right, so welcome back. Good to have you with us on this Tuesday morning. Just about 7 minutes to go before the 7 o'clock hour. And we promised you that we were going to reach out to our Crystal Hoyt, who is on mainland Grenada. And, we appreciate, definitely, Crystal, we appreciate your dedication to covering the aftermath of this tropical hurricane, particularly Hurricane Beryl, recent passage through the Caribbean. So we've been seeing some of your reporting as you've moved across to different islands. First of all, as you left Barbados, tell us what you experienced. I believe the first place you went was to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes, good morning, Tisha. Good morning to your viewers. I went to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Kanawha, Myro, and Union Island, which was the hardest hit. Those are the islands in the Southern Grenadines. And the devastation there was unimaginable. Union Island, within a matter of hours, according to the residents there, life as they know it had transformed. 98% of the housing stock there completely destroyed. If there are 2 to 3 houses with roofs, that's a lot.
Wow, so talk to us about how people are coping, really. How have they been coping in the aftermath of this hurricane?
Are resilient, because when I arrived at Union Island on the first day, which would have been probably 2 or 3 days after Beryl had passed, they'd already adjusted in unimaginable ways. They'd started fires so that they'd be light, because there was no electricity, there was no telecommunications, there was no water, no running water, and you had to improvise. In terms of coping mentally, I wouldn't say that necessarily everybody is. There were a lot of people that I spoke to who were even unable to talk about what happened. They couldn't recount what happened because it was simply too fresh. And the trauma of any disaster, more or less a disaster that actually claimed lives in your hometown, is devastating.
I see you wearing your Sedema jacket there. These agencies that have been charged with working to assist our countries, specifically at times like these. How are they coping? What's happening in terms of them being able to address the needs of the affected populations?
With assessment team, and they've hit the ground running in terms of deploying experts in a number of different factors or agencies to give an assessment so that they'd be able to better decide how much aid is needed, what are the immediate needs. We had a structural engineer, we had Coastal Zone Management Unit from Barbados, UN Women, IOM, my apologies. We had a full team looking at providing food, water, sanitary, especially in terms of getting clean water. There, obviously, with no running water, using the facilities is difficult. So they're assessing the needs across the islands. So there's a team deployed here in Grenada. We just came from Carriacou. We are heading to Petite Martinique tomorrow. And Sedema in particular is doing assessments and already bringing aid. But along with Sedema, there's the World Food Program, there's UN, there's Samaritan's Purse. There are a number of international and regional agencies already on the ground, already distributing aid, already doing work. And you would have seen the Barbados Defense Force, Coast Guard leaving Barbados with aid to bring to both St. Vincent and the Grenadines as well as Grenada. So I can tell you that everybody is working, is out at all hands on deck, working with civil society, the NGOs, the government, to make sure that those most impacted get what's needed.
Now, as a reporter on the ground, what are some of the most pressing things based on what you have seen, what you've experienced, the conversations you've had with people from Carriacou, from Union Island, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines? What are some of the most pressing things that you believe the authorities must get to in haste?
I think that building more resilient homes is important. We've seen most of the houses, 98% of the houses destroyed in Union Island. A similar situation in Kanawha, and over in Carriacou, flattened. We saw so many houses, a lot of galvanized. We can build more resilient homes to withstand the type of hurricanes that we're seeing. This happened on July 1st. Literally in the Atlantic hurricane season, the quickest, the most intense hurricane that we've seen, and it intensified at a very rapid rate within 42 hours, moving from a tropical depression to a Category 4, Category 5 hurricane. And so urgently, we need to build better in terms of when we're building back. We need to because a lot of persons lost their home, but also a lot of the galvanized, some containers were being used as missiles, and those were some of the things that impacted people's lives. Recounting stories of how people died, it was because of lack of shelter. Along with shelter being a primary issue, telecommunications is an essential, because when I arrived at Union Island with no telecommunications there, we were experiencing a system. But for the Vincentians there, they thought that this was Hurricane Chris, not knowing that Hurricane Chris had developed somewhere else. But they weren't aware, and they were literally running to the ferry because they thought that they were experiencing another hurricane because electricity and telecommunications were down for days. And they had no communication between the islands. Their Union Island is about 3 hours away from mainland St. Vincent, so it was difficult. A lot of people came from mainland searching for family because there was no telecommunications, and that went on for days. In similar situation in Carriacou, but though I can report that over in Grenada, Flo and Digicel have been able to restore some level of communications. The CBRU, the Caribbean Disaster Relief Unit, also deployed Starlinks to help with the telecommunications issues.
Now, usually from this end, when we hear about, aid work and agencies coming in, one of the main things that happens is we also get a big blowback from regular people when they're able to get messages out that some people just aren't receiving aid. So it's important to kind of figure out how the governments, the local governments, are navigating that space. They usually are charged with kind of deciding how things will be distributed and so on. Based on your observations, how are things working from a governmental perspective? We've heard from some countries and not others that you should address to the country if you're sending aid. Others, you should address to individuals. So what really has been happening based on what you've seen?
Based on what I've seen, that conversation has already started in terms of persons complaining that they're not receiving the aid that is sent, or that particular islands are being prioritized based on the fact that they may perhaps be hardest hit. And that's a discussion, particularly in St. Vincent, where because Union Island was the most impacted, there are persons in Myro, there are persons in Kanawha who are complaining that they're not receiving everything that they should. They're not receiving aid in terms of food, water, or in terms of medical supplies. So I get that conversation. I think that all governments could do a better job in terms of getting the distribution fairly distributed, but I know that they're making the efforts because I see the boats coming to the different islands, and there is aid on every island now. There is food, there is water, there is access to those things. Could it have been quicker? Perhaps, but right after Hurricane Beryl hit, another tropical system developed, and that made even transporting things difficult. The Barbados Defense Force had to make a detour, made a stop in St. Lucia because the waves, the water was simply, it was too much to traverse. So aid coming is always going to be a difficult conversation. People are always going to complain because they may not get it as they would have hoped. But I can tell you that the agencies, NEMO, NEDMAD, they're all working on the ground to get people the things they need, the essentials.
Absolutely. And what about the conversations in terms of rebuilding? I'm sure those conversations are happening as we speak, but what are you hearing from governments and agencies about what it will take to be able to at least try to rebuild these countries?
Well, I spoke to Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves on a Friday, and he'd made it very clear that rebuilding a simple island like Union Island alone would take millions of dollars. You want to build that better, you want to build that more resilient, and you have to build back all of the houses there. That's the reality. There's not a house there that isn't damaged. So it's going to take millions of dollars to be able to recover from this. But the conversation on building back and rebuilding is not, it hasn't started in that way as yet, simply because they're in the cleanup process. There is so much to clean up in all of the islands, in Union Island, in Carriacou, in Grenada. There is a lot of rubble, a lot of galvanized, a lot of debris. That's where you have to start. And for those particular islands, what do you do with the rubble? And that's the conversation Prime Minister Gonsalves is currently having, because it's going to be expensive. It can't stay there. It can't go in the ocean. It has to be transported, and it's a lot to transport.
What are some of the touching stories that you've heard, Crystal, as you've moved through the various countries and spoken with the residents? We know people have lost their homes and so on, but every story is not the same. And I know for some people, when you speak with them, they touch you in a different way based on their particular stories. So share some of those stories with us.
Well, I met Monica in Carriacou, Grenada yesterday, and well, a lot of people lost their homes. She almost died in her home because she couldn't move. Her roof collapsed on top of her, and she was stranded in her home for hours, just waiting out the hurricane. And for me, that was perhaps one of the most touching stories because in just recounting it and hearing her voice break as she tried to tell the story, it was heartbreaking. Because what do? She had done all the preparations. She boarded up her windows, and she made all. She had the hurricane essentials. She had her flashlight. She talked about having all of the things that they said that you need. But what do you do when your roof collapses on top of you? Where do you run? And she's an elderly lady. She's 76, and she spoke about the fact that she'd survived many hurricanes, but there is nothing compared to Beryl.
Let's double back a bit to those relief efforts that you mentioned. We know as a Caribbean people, we're a resilient people. And when it matters most, we band together to be able to make things done. What's it like on the ground in terms of the people really getting out and working to help themselves, really?
They're already starting to rebuild at home in the way that there's tarpaulin on a lot of roofs already. They're already just adapting. They're cooking on the outside. They're taking care of each other. We saw in Carriacou, he's not related to any of these elderly women, and he's taking care of them until the ambulance can come and transport them from Carriacou to mainland Grenada, which he's hoping that they can do today. So the community is banding together. These are small islands, and they're already very close-knit. So when tragedy hits for them, they band together.
All right. And what message would you share to convey to our audience the importance of supporting and assisting these Caribbean countries in the wake of Hurricane Beryl? Because we know many of them have launched campaigns for assistance.
Being on the ground, I can tell you that the devastation is unimaginable. And any relief, food, water, diapers, sanitary napkins, you name it, any small, big, anything that can be given is needed. The reality is, living in the Caribbean, this could have easily been any of us. Barbados was truly spared in the event that we only were impacted along the coastlines and the fisher folk, but entire islands have been completely destroyed. And so if there's anything at all that you can give, pick up an extra can of tuna, pick up a canned good, anything is needed, is definitely needed, because it's going to be months, if not years, of just trying to recover in Carriacou, in the Southern Grenadines, across the islands.
And I think on a technical level, for our audience to understand what it takes for you to be able to make these reports. We've seen you doing reports for international media, for example, as well, but to be able to go into these countries where there's no data, there's no connectivity, there's no electricity, that takes a Herculean effort of sorts to be able to share the stories and get the messages out as well.
You definitely have to get resourceful. I'm currently in mainland Grenada, so I'm hoping to be able to get to push off a couple of stories before I head back to Carriacou and Petite Martinique. But luckily, there are restoring telecommunications. I don't know about the situation in St. Vincent currently, because when I left there was no communication. I've benefited greatly from Sadima's comms team. We are using the Starlink and a small generator, so there's a limited window where you do have access to electricity and to be able to charge the equipment, because that's one of the hardest things, and be able to send back things is one thing to do these stories, but if you can't get them out, then it almost feels a bit useless. But we're working around it, we're pivoting, and we're doing the best we can.
And I know that a lot of the times we don't necessarily see our troops on the ground or acknowledge what they do, but in speaking to a lot of residents and governments from these countries year over year, as we continue to hear about how they're battling with these climate challenges, we hear that, you know, the Barbados Defence Force, they were some of the first people on the ground, the first feet on the ground, and the work that they're doing to assist. So talk to us a little bit about how our guys and girls are working to assist.
They're most appreciated. Leonard C. Banfield arrived in St. Vincent and the Grenadines a few days ago, but they've left. And Trident, under Captain Hazelwood, was in Caracou when I left. Yes, in Caracou when I left. They're providing essential aid, and they're also transporting critical team members from the Sedema CDRU unit, and they brought across some police officers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that are going over to Kanawa and Unit Island, because the thing about bringing aid is that there's also a need to bring security. We've had instances in both islands where there's been looting, and so the Barbados Defence Force, much appreciated for the work that they're doing. I can tell you that on the ground, when any of the Coast Guard boats come in, you see the people flock to the ferry fleet, flock to the dock, simply because they know that they're coming with supplies, they're coming with critical and essential things.
Crystal, thank you so much for your work. We certainly look forward to hearing more reports from you in the coming days. We've been seeing a lot of what you've been sharing on the news, but we look forward to sharing with our Morning Barbados audience as well, and maybe even outside of that, as we move past the cleanup and get into the planning for the future. So take care of yourself.
Thank you, teacher.
All right, so thanks so much to our Crystal Hoyt for the work that she's doing down the region as we continue to follow all that's happening in the wake of Hurricane Beryl. Remember, you can vote donate by navigating to the page on the screen. We will share the information from the other countries as we're able to get it. Do stay with us. We have more coming up here on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning.
Pardon?
Good morning to you.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb, and together we will travel the world.
From 98.1 to CBC TV8 comes the Soca Avenue, the sweetest soca hour in radio. It's artists with new tunes and some old sweet ones too, jamming on the Soca Avenue. Saturdays, join AON Skills and the crew down on Soca Avenue, all new on CBC TV8. Feeling the festival.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
My friend, you don't plan to get it? Oh, Barbados. Hey, I'm KB Clean. Join me 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here at 94.7, the best and ultimate Bajan experience. My show is called Bajan to the Bone. Don't miss it, Bajan to the Bone. Weekdays right here and only here on 94.7.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and new.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 7:15. Good to have you in company with us this morning, whatever you're doing. So this is Morning Barbados. And yesterday we introduced you to a few of the young people who are part of a big Speak Off competition. That's all a part of an initiative that came into being in 2000. The Ministry of Tourism developed and implemented a secondary school Speak Off competition to prepare Barbados' representative titled Junior Minister of Tourism. And that winner goes forward to participate in the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Regional Tourism Youth Congress, which is held every single year. So we have two more of the finalists to introduce you to this morning in Michael Robertson, representing Alexandra School.
Good morning, Mom.
Good morning. And Michaela Lowe from the Ellerslie School. I'm still getting accustomed to the Ellerslie uniform because, you know, we have it in so many different iterations, I guess, as you go up through the school. So are you in fifth form? Is it the fifth form
Lower
uniform?
6.
Lower 6. Because the tie is different. And
yes, please.
That's how you experience it. So thank you both for coming. Now, Michael, I know that you're a part of YAPS.
Yes, ma'am.
At Alexandra School. Tell me a little bit about the group.
Hosted by Miss Rudder, also an English teacher. We participate in debating topics every lunchtime at Tuesday. Very intriguing, and it really broadens your horizons and exposes you to different clubs and different events, such as this one here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's beautiful. So how did you come to be a part of the YAPS group, which the acronym stands for?
Young Adult Public Speaking.
Okay, good stuff. How did you come to be a part of it?
Well, at first I was in student council, and Miss Rudder approached me after I was on stage announcing my presidency run, and I was fascinated by YAPS, so that led me here eventually.
All right, beautiful. What about you, Michaela? For you, I know that you've done a few other projects, more on the entrepreneurial side, and challenges and so on. So talk to me about, you know, what piqued your interest in this particular competition.
Well, my teacher, Mr. Wallace, was very passionate about tourism. So likely I saw other people talking about this tourism competition. I didn't think I would get in or be a part of it. But my principal called me and said, I would love you to be a part of this competition and represent the school. So I told myself, well, if the principal thinks I can do it, then I'm sure that I can do it.
That's beautiful. Talk to me, Michael, about the topic that you'll be tackling for the competition.
The solo traveler, solo tourist in general, and really the rise of solitary travelers in recent occasion, and essentially how people tend to travel alone nowadays, especially post-COVID. As well as the increase, especially female solo travelers. If you are infrequent on social media, for example, you'll see that many female solo travelers are very concerned about safety when they're traveling. So I'm tackling that and compiling a speech and a PowerPoint on that, and I hope to succeed.
That's definitely interesting and something that's been trending, I think, a lot online, as you mentioned before. What about you, Michaela?
Wow.
What area will you be sharing with us?
I'm doing adventure tourism because everybody, at least once in their life, wants to have an adventure. So I'm putting together different activities that people like to do singly with like one group to make everybody bond in a way. And I want it to be inclusive because for people that aren't able, they want to do things that the people that are able, they would like to do too. So I want it to be adventurous, but still inclusive and considerate of other people.
I love that. We talk about accessibility a lot,
please.
But I think it's important for us to be able to make, you know, places of interest accessible to our differently abled community as well. What are some of the things that you've learned, Michael, as you've done the research for this particular presentation?
Overall, I would say that just tourism in general, really, all the different sectors of tourism, from the hotel industry to the ports to the aerospace industry, Grant Adams International Airport, all of these collaborate and interlink with each other, and I've especially delved into those connections really more before the participating in the competition. It was more a superficial level, but since I've participated, I've learned a lot about the connections between these different companies.
And I think that's the real driving force behind this competition, to really get young people to delve into tourism and talk about that interconnectivity that we hear so much about, but we don't necessarily see at the superficial level, as you call it. What about you? What are some of the things that you've learned? Because I would imagine examining adventure, you will have to get out and examine adventure.
Well, I've learned that there are different places that people would love to go, but they don't know how to get there or when they can get there. So I've learned that if you combine a lot of things and you make a way for each of them to come true, you can make one thing into multiple parts.
All right, so there's lots to see and do, and hopefully some of your suggestions coming out of these speeches that you're preparing, these master speeches, will be lessons that might be turned into TED Talks or maybe our own talks and suggestions of where we can take our Caribbean tourism industry as a collective, as a grouping, because we're so small. All right, in terms of preparation, how's that going, Michaela?
Well,
are you working with your teacher at home? What's going on?
I'm working with at least 4 teachers and my deputy principal. They've helped me a lot, especially my tourism teacher, because he was such an inspiration for my project, Choosing Adventure, because tourism is something that I knew of, but I didn't know it had a name. Seeing people travel and seeing people interact with each other. So getting his help and my deputy principal's help, Mr. Applewaite, and another teacher, Mr. King and Miss Connell, their help in all of the stages that I've done so far was immense and very me focused and my speaking focused.
All right, good stuff. So they really are getting you ready.
Yes, please.
At all levels. They want to bring it back to Black Rock, man.
Yeah, of course they do.
Around. And of course, Mikkel is hoping to be able to bring the title to
of course,
Peter to Alexandra. So how are you preparing and with whom?
Every day with Miss Rudder, my English and debating teacher, I run through the PowerPoint with her, especially focusing on the timings and the enunciation of my speech all the time, every day I'm preparing, refining my speech, going through ironing out all the kinks, etc. It's a very thorough process. Every day I'm attending school as well, running through also the geography teacher, Miss Charlemagne. It's very crucial. These 2 teachers have assisted me through my journey, especially. It's very helpful. I'm very grateful for it.
Now, based on your experience, Michaela, what's the one thing that you think maybe the Ministry of Tourism should do to get more young people outside of this competition, of course, and engaging with your peers after all that you've learned about tourism? What's the one thing you think the Ministry of Tourism should do to kind of get more young people into tourism and a little more involved than they are?
Well, I think they should make the need for tourism and what tourism can do for the country more allowed, because people know of tourism, but some people don't know the purpose of tourism and what it does for the country. Like, it helps our economic state, it helps build infrastructures, roads, helps give people jobs, opportunities. So if you tell people the reason tourism is or why it came to be, I think people would be more interested in it to help preserve it, help it to grow. Because if you want something to grow, you have to let people know about it.
Absolutely. What about you, Mikkel? What should they do to get young people a little more interested in tourism outside of travel? Because you talk to a lot of young people say, I love to travel, but they don't necessarily think about tourism as them doing things around our island.
True. Well, a lot of young people have stuff to say nowadays, but they don't necessarily know how to convey it to others. So focusing on the whole speech and grammar, focusing on how to effectively convey yourself to another person, debating classes, debating teams in all the schools, that would greatly help assist in the journey to, if you want to start tourism in sixth form, if you want to start any other related subjects, then knowing how to convey yourself would be the first step, I would say.
In terms of communication, very, very important, communicating. So thank you both for making the trip. I certainly hope, I know that you're both in it to win it, because I want to enter a competition and be like, I just wanted to come third. No, of course you're in it to win it. So, at home, what's happening there? How are the parents feeling about you competing in this speak off?
I would say that my mom's, of course, very supportive, very, very supportive, and even carrying me all these places that are essential to the competition, in other events as well, supporting me through that journey. helping me through the speech and the PowerPoint, and overall being a great supportive figure in my life.
All right, you get an AA plus, mommy. What about you, Michaela?
My mother is extremely supportive and extremely. No, that's his teacher.
Which those are the teachers back there waving?
That's one teacher. My mother is very supportive. She's always been the person that has pushed me to do these kind of things because she wants the best for me and I want the best for myself.
Yeah.
So her encouraging me to do these things, and she always said, Michaela, let me see what you're doing so far. Let me see what's going on. What topic did you choose? What are you thinking of doing for this? She's always been my inspiration and my encouragement.
All right, good stuff. I look forward to you guys. So this year's competition is scheduled to take place during the State of the Tourism Industry Conference, which is going to be held from September 4th to 6th in the Cayman Islands. That's where the winner goes to be able to represent Barbados. The final stage of this particular school speak-off competition comes off on Monday, July 22nd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Barbados Hilton. That's where we get a chance to see these young people. They're just two of the group who will be competing for that title of Junior Tourism Minister. I look forward to it. Let me see how it sounds. Junior Tourism Minister Michaela Lowe. Junior Tourism Minister Michael Robertson. They both sound good. I can't make a decision.
They do.
But what I know is that the college crew will be fighting to keep it down Crumpton Street as well, because they have a banner outside. I think the minister now, the junior minister now, is from Harrison College.
Yes.
So I see it every time I drive by. Yeah, so we're looking to snatch that from
Of course.
Crumpton
Of
Street.
course.
Yeah, so watch out, Harrison College. They're coming for you. All right, time to take a break. Thank you both for coming and sharing with us.
You're welcome.
Heading off to school now?
Well, exams are over, so just for revision
Nothing
purposes.
to do?
Yeah.
Nothing to do.
Did you say revision purposes?
Well,
that was for the parents watching, right? Yeah, I understand. I get it. But what are the big plans for the summer?
Job.
You're going to have a job?
I would like to have a job.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that off air. What about you, Mikkel?
Revision purposes, man.
All right. We're going to take a break here on Morning Barbados. Stay with us for revision purposes. We'll be right back. Revision. Yeah. Right.
I stop and wonder when I hear Kaizo, how them Kaizo man does treat the woman so. They singing about woman in a party, winding up she boomsy, while somebody jam she. Is this all they have to show? Kaizo man, please lend me your ear. This is something I think you all should hear. In your search for wealth, in your quest for fame, never ever cause your woman shame. To me she is mother of our children, bearer of life, my queen, my friend, my woman, my wife. Come walk with me, hand in hand, we will guide the youth unto the promised land.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
Welcome to the Crop Over Sweet Spot, your go-to show for all things Crop Over 2024. We'll dive into the big issues of the day with exclusive interviews with the entertainers, the experts, the movers and shakers of the festival, plus you, the audience. Get to join the conversation and share your views. Tune in to CBC TV 8 every Friday night for the ultimate crop over experience with yours truly, the Admiral. We're big on everything crop over 2024. The Crop Over Sweet Spot, brought to you with the kind compliments of Axel Finance.
Tune in every Friday at 6 p.m. to see me, Chrissy D, on Fashion Flair on CBC TV 8. I'll be bringing you the latest fashion trends, fashion ends, and everything in between. Get ready to transform your style, get inspired, and elevate your fashion game with the ultimate guide to looking fabulous. Join me, Chrissy D, this Friday on CBC TV 8 at 6 p.m. for an exciting episode of Fashion Flair.
The ultimate cricket showdown is coming to ESPN, and MCTV has got you covered. The ICC Cricket World Cup 2024 is here on ESPN and MCTV. Tune into MCTV channels 302 and 308, and don't miss a single six, wicket, or heart-pounding moment as top teams vie for the 2024 T20 World Cup. From June 1st to 29th, it's cricket you can't afford to miss. Tune into ESPN on MCTV, and for live radio coverage, tune into 94.7. Catch every moment of the ICC Cricket World Cup T20 action.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 7:32. Good to have you in company with us here on Morning Barbados. And we're getting ready for work, the little ones studying. I don't know if that's what they're saying. Maybe heading off to school, or maybe they're home today. We know school is winding down. So will be very interesting times ahead. We're going to share in the coming days any information that we know about summer camps and opportunities for the summer for the little ones as well. So you can look forward to that on Morning Barbados. Right now we want to talk about an organization called the Caribbean Institute for Social and Emotional Learning, though. So help me welcome Melina Simmons and Rachel Cheeseman, and they're both with that Institute. They're joining us online. I see a familiar face. Good morning.
Good morning, and how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, Melina. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
We don't want to leave you out, Rachel. Good morning to you too.
Good morning, good morning. Nice to see you.
Wonderful to have both of you with us. So let's start at the beginning, Melina. What is the Caribbean Institute for Social and Emotional Learning, and what are your major objectives?
Well, the Caribbean Institute for Social and Emotional Learning is an organization that was born out of EQ Barbados, which was founded originally by Tony Oulton. The aim for the expanded organization is to have 500,000 Caribbean people becoming more emotionally intelligent. And what am I talking about when I say more emotionally intelligent? We want to have persons being more aware of their emotions, understanding the messages of their emotions, and using that information wisely to make good decisions for themselves and especially their families, because we're here about the National Peace Program initiative, Parent-Wise. So our focus right now is on parents and guardians.
So Rachel, talk to me about why it's important for people to be able to tap into their emotions, and is it something specific in a Caribbean context?
Well, emotions drive us. We are emotional beings, and we don't know anything unless we are driven to by our emotions. So the reality is, in the Caribbean context, we are not comfortable, we are not familiar talking about our emotions, expressing our emotions. We've never been taught how to understand them or manage them. So I think this is important for us, especially as parents, because as family is the bedrock of our society. So I think parents being our first teachers, it's important for parents to be able to navigate emotions in an effective way.
How important is this, Melina, to be able to kind of see past what we've been taught? Because as kind of mentioned, this is cultural to kind of bottle everything up, particularly with our men, our boys.
Yes.
So how do you even start to kind of move past this to really make a change that you can see in the short to medium term?
I think we start with setting that intention, and it is a personal intention. Each individual must make that choice. We just need to look at what is happening in society. The homicides and all of the other activities, the road rage. We've not been taught how to handle and how to express our emotions effectively. It's not taught in schools. We seldom ever teach it at home. Very often it's because we just choose to suppress our emotions. We are told that that's the way to deal with it. But anything that's suppressed has to come out. And that is what we are seeing in society today. We are seeing people who don't have the tools, the skills, the abilities to carefully nurture themselves, to understand themselves, to manage their emotions. And for parents, it's especially important because as parents, we are modeling these behaviors to our children. So when we fly off the handle because of something that has happened that's not gone our way, what we are saying to our children is, this is the way you deal with this. You fly off the handle, you attack the person. And that's really not the message we want to share. So as
Rachel,
parents...
Continue. Sorry, Melina.
It's all right. And I was just saying, so as parents, we really do need to become more self-aware and emotionally intelligent.
And, that's very important. Talk to me now about the programs that the Institute will be undertaking under the Parent Wise banner to be able to share more about emotional intelligence and just generally learning more about emotional well-being across Barbados.
That's for me or Rachel?
For Rachel.
Okay, good.
So our programs, we're kicking off next week at the St. John the Baptist Church. And this is in Holders Hill. We're going to be there every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So we're running from the 16th of July until the 13th of August. So we're starting off in St. James, and then we're going to be moving on to the parish of St. George, and we'll be there through September to October. And then from there, we'll be moving on to the parish of St. Michael, and we'll be there from October to November.
Who are we talking to, Melina? Who are we targeting with these sessions, and how are we getting them out?
We're targeting parents, grandparents, caregivers. And I'm saying parents, grandparents, and caregivers. But to be quite honest with you, if you're interacting with children, then this is an important program for you to participate in, for you to attend, so that you become aware of how to deal with the issues that come up. I mean, children will get angry. They will throw temper tantrums. We will have communication breakdowns. But how do we deal with them as parents? So we are targeting parents in the first instance, but we also know that grandparents play an important role in raising children. So we're wanting to see the grandparents, the granddads, and this is a special appeal for fathers to come out, because dads are really important in this process of raising emotionally intelligent children. Your children are looking at you and they're going to do what you do. It's, monkey say, monkey do. The children model our behaviors. So that's who we're looking at. We're inviting every parent, grandparent, and caregivers to come out to this program. And it's not just, we're having the first one in St. James, but once you're able to get there, get there. So if you're living in St. Peter, St. Andrew, St. Lucie, St. Thomas, all of the surrounding areas, and you wish to attend, that's fine. Or when we go to St. George, same thing can happen. Just look at the time and make sure that this works for you, this time works for you, and come.
Rachel, talk to us now about the major components that will make up these sessions, and maybe who some of the presenters are and the areas they will cover.
Okay, so the presenters, I'll start with presenters. Our facilitators will be the ones leading this. Ms. Simmons will be our lead facilitator for this program. Some of the things that we will talk about would be, so we're using a model called the KCG model, and this model was designed by our partners at 6 Seconds, which is the world's largest emotional intelligence network. So the model stands for Know Yourself, Choose Yourself, and Give Yourself. And what participants will be introduced to concepts such as self-awareness. We're going to talk about how can you manage and navigate your emotions, the importance of recognizing our patterns, because we all have patterns that, patterns of thinking, feeling, behaving. When we feel a specific emotion, we behave a certain way. So we're going to get to unpack some of those things, those patterns that we have that may not be serving us. We're going to really be looking hard at consequential thinking, which is, the ability to manage, to in the moment, manage your responses and to think about what is it that you are really chasing within this interaction. We're looking at stuff like communicating empathically with your child. We're also going to be looking at service. Are we modeling service? Are we explaining to our children the importance of the gift of service to others? I noticed that we talked about at the beginning of your show, we talked about the outreach for the other islands. Are we involving our children in these kinds of opportunities? So it's going to be a very holistic, comprehensive program where we touch on everything that's important to someone in a family.
All right, I want to thank both of you ladies for coming in and sharing with us. This most certainly can't be the beginning and end of our conversation on this. So we will have to continue talking more about it. I certainly hope the sessions are successful and we're able to accomplish all that we must, particularly under the banner of the National Peace Program and this new thrust with that initiative to really target parents with the Parent Rise aspect of the program as well. So again, encouraging people to come out and be a part of the presentation. The next one, Melina, I'm going to leave that with you to reinforce where, when, and how they can be a part of it.
Where is in St. James at the St. John the Baptist Church at their hall. When? It's July 16th, starting at 6 and ending at 8 p.m. And we do have a link for you to register if you want to register online via the NPP's portal or Cecil. This is Cecil on Facebook. Or you can just turn up and sign up and join us.
All right. Thank you, ladies, for coming in and sharing with us. Very interesting. Representing the Caribbean Institute for Social and Emotional Learning and talking about this initiative coming to communities near you. It's time for another break, but we still have lots more to do here on Morning Barbados. And who knows, I just might be practicing my teabag throwing skills when we come back.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. It's a different feeling altogether.
Follow me to Q in the Community this Thursday.
You know why?
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
From 98.1 to CBC TV8 comes the Soca Avenue, the sweetest soca hour in radio. It's artists with new tunes and some old sweet ones too, jamming on the Soca Avenue. Saturdays, join AON Skills and the crew down on Soca Avenue. All new on CBC.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Trying to shuffle my papers. They give me a big bunch of papers, and I always get a lot of Barbadians from over in a way. Isha, why don't you use a tablet? I said, because I can't shuffle a tablet. I'm from that era where I like papers. I have a tablet. Maybe I'll use it tomorrow and we'll see how that one will work out. But then I'll probably be like this in the tablet. Anyways, we'll see. Old people things. Let me say a special good, on that note, let me say a special good morning to Senator John King.
Old people, right? Good morning, Mama. Good morning, Barbados.
Good morning. Good to have you here with us. Special advisor on culture and cultural heritage in the Division of Culture, Prime Minister's Office, Senator John King. And here with us is Rihanna Smith. Good to have you back as well.
Thank you.
Now, Rihanna is Assistant Coordinator and Researcher for the Barbados National Register of Historic Places. And last time you were here, I told you I did not know that existed.
Yes.
So it was really great to have you in. We were at that time talking about the mill, just the one.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are talking about the documentation of the windmills of Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly said to you, I only know of one. So where are we going with this, Senator King?
So, part of our heritage, sugar, rum production. The windmill was very, very important as a technology in terms of grinding sugar cane, providing us with water. So it was energy, so to speak. At a point in time, Barbados had, and a lot of people might not know this little fun fact, the Barbados had per capita the most windmills in the world after Holland. Imagine that.
Wow.
We're over 500 on this island. And as part and parcel of our, again, heritage, we're looking at the technological side of the production of sugar, the production of rum. And the windmill plays such a significant part. And as we're talking about energy and energy efficiency and all these things today, and we're coming back to the windmills again, we want to make sure that we can document what we have left of that legacy, so to speak, of the use of the windmills. And so hence this particular project is extremely important for us to have a better understanding of our contribution to the world in terms of the production of it and the use of windmills as a technology.
Well, on the note of legacy and even thinking about it and what you are doing to be able to document these spaces, how are we finding them? I would imagine that's why we're having this conversation, to figure out where they were and some of those old maps with the original topography.
Yes.
I know in thinking about that now, windmills were marked on them.
That's correct.
Yeah, so, how are we going about finding where these windmills were, what they were used for, and all of that exciting historic data?
Well, as I mentioned at my last visit here, the work of the Barbados National Register is led by our communities. And so while we have a research team of historians and students who would be able to tell where some of the windmills are, one of the reasons why we're here today is to also do a call to action to invite persons who have stories and fun facts about windmills to give us more information.
So what are we looking for regular residents? For example, you might not know this particular thing would have been a windmill in your neighborhood or your particular area, but is there anything specific we can look for in terms of maybe characteristics of the windmills?
Well, at this point in time, since, the Morgan Lewis windmill is the only full and complete working windmill in Barbados, what we're looking for is for the mill wall. Not particularly the windmill with the rollers. We are looking for these structures that were probably made of stone, which ascend into the air by a good set of feet, which are indicative that work was being done within that area.
All right. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that when you drive around, oftentimes, especially at places like the northern side of the island, St. Peter in particular, you can see so many, I could say, ruins or things left back of windmills. It's unbelievable. In fact, if you go into places like Goodland in Christchurch, I've been to a home that actually has a standing windmill, and people have converted them into parts of their homes.
There's
so if you
one
go
here
down
at
Newcastle,
Upton.
yes, there's one at Upton, that's correct.
Yes, that was over by Jeanette Lane Clark.
Correct.
Yeah, I've seen it inside.
Yeah,
very,
and you
very
see
beautiful.
people have been inventive, innovative, and use them into the aesthetics of their homes.
Yes.
And we want to be able to label them and to mark them so that even visitors coming to Barbados at some point in time will be able to do what we would call a windmill tour. And you can get information on the windmill, when it was established, what it was all about, how was it contributing to the economy at that particular point in time, and what do we have left. And so it's important then for us to get those persons in particular who have been able to use the windmills into their own aesthetics in their homes to invite us or to send us emails, and Rihanna will give you the email address to get that information, because we would want to come out to you, inspect it, look at it, see how, where we would place the plaque, get the stories also to put into our database. And like for me, I have a story which I would put in, which was passed on from one generation to the other. It's not a nice story about windmills, because someone died in the process of working with the windmills, who would have been my uncle many years ago. He was about 19 years old at the time, I believe they said, and he died working at, I think it was Guinea Plantation with the windmill, and those are the stories that we also have to document, because it was dangerous work. And if you ever do the tour at Morgan Lewis, and they begin to tell you how many people would have lost their lives in that process of getting the sugar and thing grinded, I mean, it's unbelievable. But like I said earlier, all of this is part and parcel of who we are. And it's important that we have these stories stored for future generations, and hopefully as we become more, attuned with the digital world, and we can capture the images of these things and keep them in digital form on the platform, it makes it a lot easier for people to understand the energy usage in Barbados at that time.
This is so interesting, particularly at a time where we are talking about energy and energy sources and different types of energy across the world, and looking back at a time in Barbados where we were harvesting all of this wind energy, as you said, the per capita second biggest place for windmills, and even with what we did in terms of harvesting solar energy. It's going to be interesting to hear the backstories behind these stories of these windmills and how they operated. And then for me, what happened to them? like, why all of a sudden was it based on the technology?
Yeah.
Through the Industrial Revolution,
That's
everybody
correct.
thought, okay, out the window. And here we are, full circle.
Full circle.
Here we are once again. What an interesting story. I'm talking to you, but I am thinking, have I ever seen a mill? Have I ever seen a mill wall? So I would imagine lots of people are thinking that way as well. How do we reach out to you to be able to share our stories and get you to come out and see if there might be something in our neck of the woods in a particular area or what have you?
Simply by sending us an email at barbadosnationalregister@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good stuff. What's the current state of things though? Because we have one and we have an S on windmills, John. So, have we found any other mill walls? Are we actively searching at this time?
The Barbados, if you go on to the website of the Barbados National Trust, they have a document which was done a good few years ago by a Barbadian, which shows you a lot of photographs of mill walls around the island. And I'll tell you, it's a very comprehensive list. So you could easily go there and get that information. But again, there were windmills which were also used not just to produce energy, but for water, to get water stuff done. And so those are the other ones. Those were the smaller ones. Those are the ones we also wanted to look at. Only a couple of days ago, I can't remember where it was, but it was somewhere in St. Philip where we actually found one. And it was like, wow, could you imagine we're finding this at the time when we're now getting ready to do this particular program? Yes. It was like, wow. And what it does, it puts you in a frame of mind for you to begin to think, like, what was life like back then? People having to use this type of energy to survive. And like you said, it's interesting that we're coming full circle and we're talking about clean energy all over again and the use of windmills once again.
All right, so I want to thank you both for coming in and sharing with us. I am thoroughly intrigued. And I'm a bit of a treasure hunter as well. I love a good challenge.
It's good fun.
Yeah, I think it absolutely would be. So if you know of any information, you should definitely reach out to the Barbados National Register of Historic Places. There are quite a few here in Barbados, and we truly need to get them documented so that we can really share our history for generations to come. I look forward to it. Of course, the little devil on my shoulder who's always talking is telling me that I should say there should be a windmill for windmill hot sauce and windmill mobby.
Yes, there is.
Absolutely. I mean, like,
there is.
That would be like the greatest attraction.
I'm
like,
telling
you go and you see how we make hot sauce in the windmill and the mobby too.
But if I may, I would encourage people though to even take the opportunity to go to Morgan Lewis windmill.
Yeah.
Just to see and do the tour to get a better understanding of how they were used.
All right, I've not been back lately. I know there's been some renovation. I'm trying not to meet Rihanna's glance because last time she was here, I told her, I'm coming this Friday. I'll be there, and I didn't make it. But I'm coming this Friday. I'll make it. I'll be there. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
We definitely will be coming up to the mill, and I look forward to hearing more about the windmills of Barbados, as I'm sure you do as well. We're going to take a quick break and look at the time. When we come back, we'll wrap up today's edition.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
From 98.1 to CBC TV8 comes the Soca Avenue, the sweetest soca hour in radio. It's artists with new tunes and some old sweet ones too, jamming on the Soca Avenue. Saturdays, join AON Skills and the crew down on Soca Avenue. All new on CBC TV8. Feeling the festival.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our
morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And y'all are going to get me fired. You're going to get me fired. Somebody will have to get me a job. Hear that, John King? All right, well, here goes. All right, so let me put this aside for a minute. So we had Barbados in, and they have a tea party coming up, and there's a tea bag toss. We're trying to get into the Guinness Book of World Records to see how far you can toss a tea bag. Now, apparently, the record is 10 meters. That's in the Guinness Book of World Records. I don't think this is 10 meters, but this is the wet tea bag. I was close. This is the dry tea bag. I was closer. I'll get it tomorrow. I promise. I'm going to continue to practice, and you should too. But most importantly, you should go out to that Barbados tea party at State House. Oh my goodness. Anyways, coming up tomorrow on Morning Barbados, we hear about the Connect Carib ferry service. I know we're all looking forward to that. The readiness of the ferry access, all of that. We're going to have a deep discussion on that. Also, we're talking HR with Hermab. The team captain of the Barbados rugby women's team is going to be in to talk about their upcoming match versus the Cayman Islands women 15. And we get some more contestants in the Junior Youth Congress competition to share with us. Peter, bring back the tea bag. Let me try again. Yeah, Peter. Yeah, I'm going to try this. Okay, so that's it from us. I'm going to continue to practice. Have a great day today.
You join with me.
All right, here goes.
I'll tell you short, boy. She threw hers already.
Also, there's going to be a press conference by SEDIMA, Response and Relief Efforts in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada. That's coming up today, and we're going to be bringing it live on TV8. So we're going to share more on that with you, all right? So make sure you tune in. Okay, tea bag, that one is mine?
Yeah.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up.
Good morning.